across from Bayfront Park, and it's a gorgeous Saturday afternoon. We'll be interviewing Sara Arroyo, a downtown resident and female powerhouse who has climbed the corporate ladder in the beauty industry and is now Global Marketing Director at American Crew. She's been so gracious to open the doors to her home and just to give us a little bit more about what it's like to live here in Miami. Let's go inside.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm here with Sara Arroyo, not only a friend, but a resident of downtown Miami and a marketing professional, and whose story I've wanted to tell for some time now. So Sara, thank you so much for opening your home.
No, thank you for this great opportunity.
So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Tell me about your first year here in Miami and what company you were working with.
Oh wow, my first year. So I moved January 8th, 2011. That was almost, 8 years ago? A long time. Time flies. I moved in with General Mills. I had received at that point in time an offer to work with them in the Latin American division, managing both Häagen-Dazs and Plate, which I don't know if you know the brand, but it's a yogurt brand. Yes. So after having worked for the Puerto Rican business, I'm Puerto Rican, and also having worked for the US Hispanic, this was really the first opportunity to work with all of the Caribbean markets. That would include the big islands like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, as well as all of the little islands as well. So that was my first experience here. It was a little bit scary, I have to admit.
Had you been before?
Yes, twice.
Okay.
More for the party scene, I have to say. Maybe those type of weekend visits, 2.5 hours from Puerto Rico. I would come, be a weekend, party a little bit, but nothing,
real life,
more than 3 days. And that had been just 2 times in my life. But I knew that, Puerto Rico, after a while, it starts getting small on you. It's a beautiful island, great people, but from a professional standpoint, the career opportunities are highly limited. So I definitely said, why don't I give myself an opportunity to test the waters outside of Puerto Rico? And I loved Miami because Miami was close to home. It's a inexpensive trip to make, 2.5 hours. And it's warm all year, which for me, coming from an island, you can imagine that it can be cold in the winter. It can be quite difficult if you're not used to that. And also the Latin culture was something that definitely drew me in because I'm Latina, and after you're a Latina, I am. And Latinas, we have this, thing about us that it's sometimes quite hard
to find in other places.
Exactly, to find in other places than Miami. So definitely I just had to take that professional opportunity with General Mills at that point in time.
So how did you find your first home when you were looking in Miami?
Yes.
Did you have someone here that you could call? And
I did. It's at first it ends up being kind of, your friends put you in contact with people, and one of my really good friends, she had a cousin who was a realtor here down in Miami. So she really took care of me. I had to fly in from Puerto Rico for a weekend, and during my visit, possibly saw about 5 to 6 apartments. From what I've heard, Brickell was a place. Right? So all the young people would keep telling me that I had to move to Brickell. So that was like, okay, perfect. So I'll do Brickell. It was a pretty consistent advice. So
across the board.
Exactly. Everyone said Brickell. So I said, okay, perfect. I want Brickell. And she took me to see a few apartments, and I saw one in Brickell Key. And that's actually where I moved. It was furnished. So that definitely was a pro. That helped a lot. Why? Because I didn't have to go through that, financial hassle of trying to figure out and start buying furniture. I wanted it to take step by step. So I moved into Brickell Key in my first kind of like own paid apartment that was furnished, and it was just absolutely, the area of Brickell Key was absolutely stunning.
Ah, no, that's great.
Yes.
And that was in 2011.
Correct.
So yes. Brickell now, you can't even recognize.
I
City
can't even.
Center, incredible.
Correct. Yes.
So tell me about, in certain industries there are milestones for, the ultimate success. So in marketing, just tell me a little bit about, how that is.
Marketing, you usually start from a marketing coordinator or an assistant brand manager position. Okay. In my experience, I was very lucky that when I was in third year of college, I was studying full time. I was offered a position in Procter and Gamble. Okay. It wasn't I offered, of course, I had to go through all the tests. It's a very competitive company to get into, so it wasn't like I was offered. I really had to do almost an SAT.
Wow.
It's not an SAT, but it's an actual written test that you have to take to go through. I was very lucky because I was able to get that opportunity to work work part-time and study full-time. Okay, in my third year of college while I was studying marketing and finance. Early. So I started very, very early in my career, which it can be, I would say, possibly one of my advice to the young people out there is start as early as you can because it's very, very competitive, right? So I started with them when I was 21 years old, and that just opened an amount of learning experiences for me, not only, I would say, in all different aspects of marketing. So I started with them. I did a little bit of like short-term assignments in different type of departments. I did shopper marketing at some point. I did, customer marketing at some point, brand management, a little bit of everything.
That's important.
Very important.
See all aspects.
Correct. After that, after I would say 2 years of working with them as what I would call intern student co-op, which was more like a long-term internship, not only the summer internship that you usually get. I started with them full-time as an assistant brand manager working for Bounty, the paper towels, as well as Pampers.
Oh, wow.
Pampers is such a beautiful brand. After that, I was with them for like 2 years, moved here to Miami with General Mills. So that's actually when I came to Miami. After working with General Mills for a few months as a associate brand manager, it's a great company, very well company, great products. But, after having had an experience with P&G, it was just too of a culture shock for me, and I was too young to be able to deal with that. Because in Procter and Gamble, they really do give you the autonomy completely to have ownership of your own products. Correct. Exactly, correct. So I had to speak to a few people and try to get back to Procter and Gamble, which just the stars fully aligned with a great position here in Procter and Gamble, managing Latin America. So after 6 months, I returned. I know it's kind of that things that you're like, how do I put in my resume that, and how do I explain that? But that was like, I called a 6 months break in General Mills and then back to P&G. And in P&G, I managed fragrances also as an assistant brand manager. For Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, and Escada perfumes.
We know well.
Exactly. So that was my first experience really moving to a Caribbean markets, Puerto Rico type of role or geography coverage to really manage Latin America as a region. Which is, you can manage it from a regional perspective, but it's also so different within, right? Colombia is a whole different country as from Brazil, for example. Exactly. So I did Latin America with Procter & Gamble Prestige, which were prestige fragrances, for about another 2 years. And that's actually when I was announced that Revlon, the cosmetics brand, was moving their Latin American headquarters from Venezuela to Miami.
Wow. There was a press release that one day you're reading?
It's always friends. It's always friends. Honestly, like if there's another advice that I can give any marketing person out there that wants to continue developing their career, keep your network active. Okay, keep yourself out there because it's always your network who's going to offer that next opportunity.
Great.
Correct. So I started with Revlon. That's where I've been the last 6 years of my life. And I started as an associate brand manager, and from there, working for Latin American distributors. I went from associate brand manager to brand manager to marketing manager, always with those markets in Latin America that were managed via distributors, which is a completely different model to actually having an affiliate or local offices, right? So after that, about 2 years ago, I was offered the position of Latin America Marketing Director. So that was pretty exciting when you get that. You're like, oh my God, yeah, exactly. You're like, am I gonna be a director? Dude, it really blew my mind. And after that, since April, I've been with American Crew. So this is actually my first global role as an American Crew Global Marketing Director.
And we'll get into American Crew, but you touched up on 3 great points that I'm going to dive into. So travel, I know that's a big aspect of your career.
Yes.
So, and you've named Colombia, the Caribbean. Explain a little bit about how you balance that schedule, that travel schedule, and how that has influenced you with work and what you're doing.
Yeah. So travel, it's one of those, I would say, things in your work that can be a curse, but it can also be a blessing at the same time. So I'll start with the curse part. It's never as glamorous as it sounds, right? Because when you have to travel for work, it's very different. You really go in and have full-on meetings, right? So it's tough. It takes you out of the routine. I have to leave my dogs. My husband does double shifts walking the dogs. He's like 5 days. When are you coming home? So it's terrible in that sense. You don't work out as much, don't eat as well, things like that. But then it's a blessing because it opens your life to so many different cultural experiences.
Absolutely.
And not only experiences, but also meeting so many different people, right? So how do I balance it? I try to be choiceful in the trips that I make.
Okay.
I think the company Revlon and any company goes through ups and downs in terms of financials. So sometimes they make you travel more and they have the T&E, the travel and expenses to pay for that. Sometimes they hold you up a little bit. But I would say there's really not a lot of balancing in traveling. It's just, embrace every traveling experience you have for work.
I mean, and thankfully downtown Miami, you're so close to the airport. So I'm
Correct,
sure that helps.
Correct. Oh, that helps. Plus, I'm always late, which I shouldn't, but I'm always late. So having, living in downtown Miami, I have the airport, I would say 15 minutes without traffic. So it's very, very easy to get to the airport, as well as there's just Ubers everywhere.
Right there. So we talked about your professional life.
Yes.
Now, we can both attest that living in South Florida, Miami, it's just amazing. You wake up every day. We often say, have you seen this day? So explain the perfect weekend. What's your perfect weekend?
Oh, wow. It'll definitely involve kite surfing. Right, so that's something that my husband and I got into about, I would say, 2 years ago. Right now, of course, we live in downtown. We're very close to Key Biscayne. That's, I would say, our main spot to do kite surfing. There's so many different kite surfing schools. So we'll possibly go 10 in the morning, depending on the wind. I know it's so much fun. Totally recommended for anyone. It requires persistence, but once you get there, you'll never feel so much freedom, right? Doing something. So it'll involve possibly 4 hours of kite surfing. It's such an amazing experience. It'll definitely involve a lot of dog walking. So I have 2 dogs, both are rescued, of course. And clearly we have a beautiful Bayfront Park. It's our little piece of nature within downtown. So we'll always spend, I would say we always walk them half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon. If we can on a Saturday, we'll give them that little, cherry on the top of extra 10 minutes. But it's kind of our way to also decompress from the week.
Right.
So definitely a lot of dog walking, and my husband and I will, have our little dates here and there. We'll go to the cinema. They opened a new Silver Spot Cinema just
Right
2 blocks
downtown?
away.
Yeah, I
Correct?
haven't been yet. How is it?
Oh, so nice. So nice. Very nice, very premium. Since even, your first step in is just a very nice experience, small kind of boutique type cinema.
Perfect for a date. Yeah.
Perfect for a date. We'll go walking. Maybe we'll have dinner at Meraki. It's a Greek place, or Ceviche 105, just a few blocks away as well.
Very walkable.
Very
Which
walkable.
is really nice.
Very walkable, and it's honestly one of the things that I treasure most about this area. I basically don't need to take the car anywhere. I can walk.
Actually, didn't you eliminate your car? You don't have a
Correct.
car.
Correct. I mean, we went
Shared
from
car.
2 cars originally to now 1 car. I still need it for work because they moved work a little bit farther away, but when I'm not in work, I can walk everywhere. To the bank, to the pharmacy, to the shopping mall, to the theater, everywhere. So it's just amazing.
So talking about Bayfront Park, which is your jewel here, recently I was on social media and I saw you were speaking to the city commissioners about a very controversial topic, Ultra extending the contract, the 10-year contract.
Correct.
So and I know that you're very invested in downtown here. So how was that experience, and what do you think? What other issues or topics or hot topics right now in the city?
So that's an experience that I have very close to my heart, because being a downtown neighbor, it's very tough to live through Ultra. And it's a very polarizing topic because we get a lot of people saying, it's only 3 days, why can't you just suck it up and listen to the music, and it's just 3 days, it brings so much money to the economy. Honestly, it's not 3 days, it's almost 4 months, right? Of just pure construction. It's just too difficult for people to live here to be able to deal with that. And it's just about our quality of lives, right? So that's something that my husband and I got involved with, after experiencing our first 2 ultras. It was very, very tough. And one important point, I've gone to Ultra, so I'm pretty open-minded about that, okay? Because I can tell it's very fun. Yeah. And magical is just a very different downtown to what it was when Ultra started about, I think it was 20, 25 years ago. We have so many different neighbors now, hundreds of thousands. It wasn't just sustainable to have Ultra happening in our backyards. So that's something that, I took a day off, went to the city hall there in Coral Gables to speak to our Miami commissioners and really explain to them all the struggles that we have to deal with, not only for 3 days, but actually for 4 months. The pre-stage during those 3 days, and after, basically the 3 months that Bayfront Park is just absolutely ruined from 3 days of partying. So I would say that's the first one. That's something that we won as neighbors very recently. I'm so happy. It's just changed my future here in downtown, I have to admit. I would say that the homeless situation could improve. Okay, it has improved. I think we have good security. We have good neighbors that are highly involved with that cause. And I have to admit that some of the homeless people have really become part of the community. Right? So we have, they're humans, they've gone through their life struggles. We have one great guy in the park, we love him, his name is Austin. He always gives water to Stella and so were my dogs. He actually spoke at the city hall when we went to and he was, he said, everyone here lives close to the park. I live in the park. Exactly. So he's part of us. But it's definitely, looking beyond something that we need to figure out what to do and give these, people that are struggling in life more resources to really help them rebuild their lives. I would say it's probably the second hot topic after Ultra that we're dealing with as neighbors.
And quickly, how does someone get more involved? How did you find out, or what's your suggestions for residents?
I would say that there's, I would say, two resources. Number one is the Miami Downtown Neighbors Alliance,
Okay.
right? So they have a really great community group of people, okay, that watch for the interest of our downtown neighbors. It's so amazing how much information they give us of the different activities that are happening here in downtown Miami, as well as really like bring issues and hear our concerns and help us advocate, right, politically
Yes.
for our concerns. So that's a group I got involved with through Ultra, and it's just like they're my voice in a way. I would say the second one is my building. So our committee or our trust, our board, that's the right word, our board is highly involved with the community beyond 50 Biscayne. So I'm able to really benefit because I am always, they just do such a great job informing us of absolutely everything, the good and the bad.
That's great. And, you know, talking about 50 Biscayne, and we're here in your home. Congratulations, you became
Thank
a
you.
homeowner not too long. Well, how long has it been?
It's been 3 years.
Wow.
3 years,
Time
2 weeks
flies.
ago.
So, you know, I know you have your license, so
Yes.
you have a good perspective on the home buying process.
Yes.
You know, tell us a little bit about how it was for you when you're on the flip side.
So it's quite scary at first, right? It's quite scary. In my personal situation, I was my own realtor throughout the process, so I was able to kind of guide myself, which is what it might have been a little bit more scarier because that's not what I do on a full-time basis. But definitely I would say that having a person, a realtor, to really support you and inform you and educate you throughout the process, it's the number one thing to do. Okay,
And I'm glad that you say that, because
Yeah.
a lot of people feel that they can do it on their own.
They can't.
And your
They wouldn't even
recommendation
know.
as a homeowner and a licensed agent is have an agent.
Exactly. Have an agent. Either if you're selling or you're buying, but if you're buying even more, have an agent. You don't have to pay anything, and there's not a fee for a buyer, and you're gonna be so much better informed throughout the process of buying your home, because being your first home, it can get quite scary, and there's a lot of decisions, you know, both financially and also legally. Legal decisions that you have to make throughout the process.
So, you know, Sarah, was very important to me because I've known you for so long, and
Yes.
I've always felt like people need to hear your story. You know, you see a little bit of your life, but, you know, I want to touch up on something that has affected you in your life that you feel has really shaped you as a person.
I have to go for that experience that really took me from being a girl to being someone more mature and with more perspective, which was my dad's illness. My dad, when I was 18 years old, I was just actually in Cancun in my, you know, that college, you're going to college kind of week trip. And I got told that my dad was diagnosed with ALS, which is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. A lot of people know about it through the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Which has been brought light to it.
Correct. And it was just the toughest thing I've ever had to live. You know, I saw him breaking down as a human being, his ability to move, to speak, just simple movements that we take for granted on a daily basis. And also how my family for 5 years just broke down. You know, the medical cost that comes, that brings to your life, the financial struggles, the emotional and psychological struggles, it really just impacts you for life. And I never, you know, there was also always one question that I would make myself every day, which was why, right? Why? And I remember one friend who told me once, you know what, Sarah, you won't understand why until this has ended, right? And one day it did, because of course ALS it doesn't have a cure. And after it did, I was just completely different, right? I have today so much more perspective about life, about what really matters and the things that don't matter, about not drowning myself in 3 drops of water.
Right.
And I think that's possibly the most important thing. Get perspective about life.
Yeah.
You know, there's everyday struggles, every day we go through things. Just look at the sky. It's such a beautiful day. That's why I sometimes tell my husband, it's such a beautiful day, you know, just enjoy it, you know, because today we're here and tomorrow we're not, right? So I think in my case, tragedy hit my life very young. And I think that that's a life lesson that I just took and that has benefited me. Although I would love to have him here with me every day of my life, I wish I would have my dad with me. But it's just changed my perspective and made me live such a better life.
And he's definitely through you because you're doing so well and activating. So thank you so much. And I think you picked the perfect place to enjoy those days.
Yes.
Here in Miami.
Yes, correct. That's so true. That's so true.
Thank you.
Yes.